A chronicle of primeval horror. Act 1. Blood of the betrayed sky. The battle ended. The heavy gates of Tartarus slammed shut. Zeus's decree cut them off from the world. The old Titans sank into the abyss, and a new king took the summit. He thought, forever. The 100-handed ones sat by the gates, hounds on chains, to guard the new yoke. But Gaia went mute with rage. Emptiness. The new king became a butcher, just like his father. He exchanged one set of captives for another. The earth shattered again. Convulsions. Primeval children rotted in the deep darkness of her bowels. Vengeance crawled out from the oldest forgotten wounds of the world. Once Cronus severed the flesh of Uranus. The scorching blood of the sky poured onto the dust. Gaia absorbed that thick, salty ichor, burying it deep within her burning belly. Now the time had come. The earth caused the blood to quicken. The Phlegraean Fields cracked open. The stench of sulfur rose. From the fissures crawled a new tribe. Giants, not men, not gods, taller than cliffs, savage faces, beards bristling like dry fire. And below the waist, the flesh of beasts. Instead of legs, hundreds of massive scaly vipers writhed. They pulsated, hissed, spat venom into the grass, tore at the granite veins of the earth. The monsters heard every rustle from miles away, a ready army of chaos, a single goal to rip out the heart of Olympus. Gaia knew the word of the fates, the secrets whispered by 3 pale hags in the dark. The gods are powerless against this brood. No immortal can kill a giant alone. A mortal is needed, one whose body reeks of sweat and knows the taste of decay, whose hand wields a mortal weapon. To burn away this brand of mortality, the earth grew a magical herb for her sons. She grew it in the total blindness of her recesses, but Zeus saw through the night. He moved first. With a single command, he extinguished all the light of the world. He forbade Eos to bring out the dawn, Selene to shine her pale eye, and Helios to drive his horses. A dead, mute darkness fell. The universe held its breath. The Thunderer descended to the land, groping with his bare hands. He destroyed the magic herb down to the last stalk. Only the juice remained on his fingers. The giants were left unprotected, but rage boiled in their chests. Pallas Athena went into the world of men. She brought the only mortal to white Olympus, Heracles. His bow had to smell of death. Act 2. The fall of Uranus's children. Alcyoneus let out the first cry, the oldest, the heaviest. On the grounds of his birth in Phlegra, he held a secret. His serpentine body knew no death. Any wound, even a torn open heart, healed in an instant the moment his viperous coils touched his native granite. "Choke the sky!" roared the giant. The stones of the divine palaces cracked. The giants moved toward the heavens, like shattered cliffs thrusting upward when the earth splits. Serpentine legs shredded the rocks, leaving bloody furrows in the clay. They uprooted ancient oaks, igniting them with underground heat, and hurled them into the sky like flaming spears. They broke the spines of mountains. They uprooted Ossa, piling it onto Pelion, a living, hissing ascent to the very gates of Olympus. The world choked on untamed horror. The gods met them at the edge of the firmament. The gleaming gold of armor clashed with foul beasts of coarse scales, stench, and fangs. Zeus struck first. A lightning bolt, jagged and vast enough to split a mountain, tore open Alcyoneus's chest. His insides were burned to black coal, but the giant only bellowed, low and ominous. His hissing tails dug into the rock of Phlegra. The monster sucked in the earth's juices. In an instant, the scorched skin tightened. Divine weapons could not harm him. Then Heracles stepped forward. The bowstring sang. An arrow dipped in Hydra's venom struck the giant's shoulder. Blood boiled in his veins. Alcyoneus screamed as they scream in hell itself. Yet his native stone pumped strength into his wounded flesh. The earth would not let him die as long as he stood upon her. The hero did not wait. The bow flew into the dust. Slick with sweat, Heracles slipped under the blows of stone fists. He dove under the giant's arm and slammed his entire weight into the monster's lower coils and pried them up. The creature's roots hung suspended in midair. A heavy crash. The giant slammed into the dirt. Heracles locked onto the scaly base with a death grip. Through a hail of stones, he dragged the monster away from Phlegra. The boundary crossed. The bond with Gaia snapped. Alcyoneus's body went limp. Heracles leaped onto the massive chest and smashed his olive club down. The skull shattered in a spray. While the first giant lay dying in the dust, Porphyrion was already storming Olympus. The earth poured lust and madness into his head. Dirty talons were already tearing Hera's golden robes. In a fury, Zeus hurled a thunderbolt. The son of Gaia froze, scorched by lightning. Flesh turned to ash. The thunderer lowered his hands. He believed victory was his. The king of Olympus was wrong. The earth had poured too much madness into Porphyrion. Overcoming the paralysis, the giant lunged forward. Dirty talons tore through the golden silks on Hera's breast with a hiss, clutching her throat until the goddess choked. Zeus was too late with the next strike. Thick smoke from the thunderbolt blinded the king's eyes. Heracles had to deliver the final blow. He ran in the wake of the thunder, pressing forward through the veil of soot. A black arrow pierced Porphyrion's throat a hair's breadth from Hera's fingers. Venom instantly burned through his brain. The carcass plummeted into the abyss with a crash. Through the soot, Ephialtes surged forward. He spat acid into the faces of the Olympians. The monster nearly crushed Apollo, pinning his golden shield to the granite. The god of light, dripping with sticky sweat, drew his last arrow, rammed it into the giant's left eye. Light burned out the pupil. The son of Gaia roared and threw his head back, jaws agape for another blast of venom. At that exact instant, a second bowstring twanged. Heracles' arrow entered the right eye up to the fletching. The black venom of the Hydra stopped the beast's heart. In death throes, the giant fell flat on his back, his mighty tails blindly lashing his own kind until Ares's chariot ground the torso into a wet pulp. The god of war himself fought like a frenzied butcher. His chariot cut a wide swath through the living coils. Ares, charging past, drove his spear into the throat of the nearest beast. The spawn fell. The god roared in triumph. He raised his bloody fists to the sky, but he forgot about the lower coils. The spasms of the wounded serpent became a convulsion of the elements. A scaly tail whipped upward, a direct hit to the chariot. Wood splintered. The horses went wild. The god of war was thrown into the bloody pulp beneath the feet of other monsters. Immobile in the mud, pinned by the weight of his own armor, the Olympian screamed in rage. Heracles ran up from behind. One heavy club strike broke the giant's spine. Another moment, and the monster's fangs would have sunk into the flesh of the fallen deity. The black venom from the fangs was meant to burn away divine flesh. The olive club was faster. At the marine borders, the water boiled. Enceladus clashed with Athena. The goddess raised her shield bearing the gaze of Medusa. Wild horror struck the giant's chest. The beast crawled backward, leaving miles of bloody foam in its wake. Athena hovered over the waves. She ripped a chunk of land, guts and all, from the body of Italy, hurled the granite monolith after him. The impact crushed the sea, Enceladus was buried alive under billions of tons of rock. This island men would later call Sicily. The monster Pallas tried to attack Athena from the flank. Zeus's daughter slashed his serpentine knees with a jagged sword. The giant fell. Frenzied by the scent of slaughter, the goddess stepped on his throat and flayed the scaly skin off him alive. She draped it over her shoulders as a trophy, but flayed, dripping with hot flesh, Pallas still hissed. The mad monster tried to sting the goddess. His life force was inexhaustible to the immortals. Heracles stepped close. Bare fingers dug into the flesh. A mortal's hand ripped the heart from the torn chest. A final spasm. Silence. Nearby the sea boiled. Polyboats chased Poseidon through the tsunamis. The Lord of the Seas bared his teeth. He turned his horses near the island of Kos. With a roar, he drove his trident into the stone mass. A severed chunk as high as the sky crashed down on the serpent's head. This boulder became the island of Nisseros. It crushes Polybotes to the bottom to this day. On land lame, Hephaestus scorched enemies with white-hot molten metal. When one of the giants swung a boulder at him, the blacksmith god overturned a vat of molten iron. Liquid death flowed beneath the bronze armor, welded skin to flesh, and burned out the insides. The viperous legs charred. The monstrosity turned into a frozen statue of metal and scorched flesh. Invisible death walked through the chaos. Hermes, in the helm of Hades, became a shadow. He swept between enemies, methodically hacking off the heads of their serpent legs. The giants fell on their bellies, losing their footing. They crawled in the mud, bleeding black blood and roaring. The god could not kill them. In the wake of the invisible, Hermes walked the completely visible Heracles. His heavy club mercilessly crushed every defenseless nape the thief god left on the ground. At the peak of the slaughter, 3 pale figures stepped onto the field. The Fates. In their hands hung heavy bronze clubs. They walked like mowers through dry grass. Agrias and Thune hid behind shields in vain. The bronze of the goddesses of fate crushed their armor like brittle glass. Short, dull thuds, broken spines. Pride ground to dust. The giants lay on the granite turned into a mash of bone and scale. But their betrayed blood refused to die, pulsing in torn veins. Heracles approached last. He drew his bow and sent a venomous arrow into each shattered head. Against fate, there is no armor, and against a mortal, there is no immortality. Act 3. Peace upon the bones. The sun crossed the edge of the sky. It was over. The spawn of betrayed Uranus was shattered. Those who managed to crawl away sought salvation in the cracks. They yearned to merge with the burning depths, trying to hide within Gaia's womb. Yet Heracles' arrows found them even in the dark. His mighty hand knew no mercy. Every shot was a final stroke, fulfilling the prophecy down to the last drop of venomous rot. The Phlegraean Fields became a mass grave. Severed serpent tails still twitched convulsively beneath billions of tons of new mountains. The stench of ozone, burnt flesh, and dry sulfur hung over the sea for years. Zeus stood atop the mangled summit of Olympus. In his scorched fingers, a final lightning bolt crackled. Primeval chaos was trampled deep underground, sealed with basalt. The new cold order of the Olympians stood fast, hard as flint. Mankind gained the right to live under the watch of the gods. That night, they proved, for the sake of their power, they would rip the earth out by its roots. The cosmos fell silent again, plunged into a dead, cold stillness.